let me just open up the slide deck and we'll make a start, not waiting any longer for people, because my objective for this call is literally something like 40-45 minutes. I want to keep it to some very specific content, try and make it as applicable to you all as possible, and then get you back off to work or enjoying your evening or the night, depending what part of the world you're in. So let me share my PowerPoint with you. There we go. Okay, so you should be seeing my introduction slide, hopefully. So, bit of background. So Sales Without Selling is a program I created probably about 2 years ago out of work I had done myself on my own business. And I realized that there was a market for people out there helping them increase the numbers of leads and ultimately sales and increasing the transaction value and growing their business and all that sort of stuff. And it was stuff I'd applied to my own business, and people would often ask me for tips and advice. So I put it all into a structured program. So I'm pulling out just a few of the sort of key learnings from various modules throughout this program, and that's what I'm hoping to share with you. So there's nothing to buy. This is literally a free training event. I'm doing it because it's an Olympic year. You may have seen some videos talk about this quite often recently. It's an Olympic year, and I love Olympic years. I think they're really special. I love the fact that you've got these individuals, quite often we're all within a team, have just trained so hard, at least for the last 4 years, to just make the team, let alone ultimately achieve the pinnacle of success with a gold medal. And I just think sometimes in business, a lot of us are like hobby athletes. We work really hard, we're passionate about it, we love it, but yeah, we'd love to be a pro or we'd love to be, an Olympic winner. So I thought, well, let's do a training camp for businesses. I'm going to share with you some of sort of the secrets and tips and things that I've learned over the last probably about 8 years on how to increase leads in particular, because I've been in sales for 25 years, and I'll come back to that in a moment. I'll sort of introduce myself in a bit more detail. So the objective of this training event is to, first of all, as I said, help you grow the numbers of customers or patients or clients or whatever name you give your people that give you money. But it also works if you are looking for new members of a club or something like that, or even if you're in a political scenario. It's very topical here in the UK at the moment, and you're looking to recruit individuals into your thing, whatever it might be. Then there's the techniques I'm going to go through will provide value in that area as well. So even if I said you run a youth football team or something, you want to recruit new players for your club, what we're going to go through would actually be very appropriate and applicable in that scenario as well. But I'm coming from this from a sales and business perspective. That's my background, and that's what I'm passionate about. And those of you who know me will know that. Also, I want to help anyone who is already advertising and investing in any form of client acquisition strategies, if that's what we'll call them. I want to help you get better returns. I want to make your advertising more effective so you get more leads, more financial return from that investment. And with the bottom line here really is, how can I help make you more attractive to the clients that you have and really make that client acquisition and client attraction much easier? So if that's my objectives, what I'm going to teach today, as I said, is, and over the coming weeks, so again, I've intended to do this as a series of webinars rather than just one long 2-hour sort of session with some little homeworks in between. Sort of a bit of a night class, so to speak. You might refer to it as something like that. But I'm going to take elements out of the fundamental module of Sales Without Selling, which is all about how to develop a step-by-step marketing system. It surprises me, I know this comes up in a later slide, but I'll mention it now. It still surprises me, astounds me, maybe it's even a better word, by the numbers of business owners who have had no formal sales training or lead generation or marketing training, which is quite odd really. If you think we've decided to set our own business, we've maybe spent years studying to be an accountant or a physiotherapist or whatever it might be, solicitor, dentists, tradesperson, you'll have put years and years into developing that trade. We set up our own business and then put very little effort into actually learning how to run a business or how to actually do any sales and marketing. And you'll hear me use the expression numerous times in any of the sort of stuff you might see out on public domain, that I believe that nothing happens in business until something is sold. So I want to give you a sales and marketing system and make it step by step for you so it's implementable for you as well. Now this will work in any market. Sometimes I do get pushback from some of my coaching clients because I do implement these processes and systems for paying clients. And sometimes I get a bit of pushback saying, well, I don't think that'll work in their market. Well, have a bit of faith. Business is business at the end of the day, and I haven't found a market yet where these techniques don't apply. So this is my objective, to increase your leads, your sales, the fees you charge as well, because it's those three things that ultimately will help you increase your income. And I usually work to this formula. That in business, making money, which is the M on the right-hand side, it's about the numbers of leads we can create, the numbers of sales or leads we convert into paying customers, so sales conversions, but also times the transactional value, our fees. Now, if we can increase any one of those three things, we will get an increase in our business. If we can increase all three of them, you'll start to see some real exponential growth in your business. So we'll touch a little bit about that. So I'm going to focus on the lead generation first of all in these webinars, and then we'll come back to some sales tactics and then some real advanced stuff with regards to how you may be able to increase your transactional value. My goal, as I said, is attracting clients sort of effortlessly, and really it will. One of the things we're going to look at throughout this program is how you build a prospect list, a prospect bank. When I worked in the corporate career, world of selling, we had a prospect bank. That's actually what we called it. It was a list of clients, and then there we'd have loads of opportunities and things that we could chase. But when we're a smaller business, we have to create that for ourselves. So I'm going to show you how you can create a list of prospective customers, which means that throughout the year you can create various promotions, which means you'll be able to create clients and sales at will, when it suits you, not sort of on the back foot kind of chasing business. And that's one of the key things of this, is that if you're not chasing business, if you've got control over the numbers of leads and sales coming into your organization, then as a business owner, life is so much less stressful. And it's the same if you're in a corporate career as well, and you're in a sales role as opposed to a business owner. Again, if you can increase the amount of business you've got, then it's less stressful. You've got more control over your pipeline and that sort of stuff, and therefore we can make money faster. Typically, we're going to be more profitable, and I'll show you some of the things that will help with profitability. Partly that's to do with the effectiveness of your advertising, and once you've got this consistency, etc., then you can start to get this better work-life balance and have much more of a lifestyle. So that's what we're about. Now, we're going to talk a bit about why we need to apply what I'm going to learn, and then we're going to get into content. So just bear with me for another sort of couple of minutes. See, a lot of businesses in marketing make some real huge mistakes. And one of those big mistakes is we often start with the advertising medium, and that's just wrong. We want to grow our sales. We want to have more inquiries coming into our business. And therefore we think, right, I'll do some advertising, I'll run an advert. Or we're more reactive to that. Sometimes we'll get a phone call from the Yellow Pages rep or a local social media marketing company or whoever it might be, the local newspaper saying, we've got some ad copy available. Can I sell you some ad space? So we can be quite reactive, and just for taking that approach of looking at different mediums is wrong. And you'll see why. I'm going to explain why these are wrong in a moment. Part of our advertising, another mistake we quite often make, is we focus on brand, not on a type of marketing, which I'm going to teach you and explain in a few moments, which we call direct response. And they're very different. And branding's fine, we have to do a certain amount of that. But direct response marketing is where we can create measurable leads into our business. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because they say today that we get about 4,000 marketing messages, whether that's on the side of a bus as it drives past, a pop-up on our web, on a browser we're in somewhere, TV advertising, radio advertising, push stuff we get to our mobile devices, etc., etc. We're just bombarded with marketing. So the question is, as business owners and salespeople and advertisers, how do we cut through all that noise? How do we stand out from the crowd? And that's one of the key things I'm going to talk about, particularly today. Now, something else, therefore, because we don't put the training into sales and marketing, because we do some of our marketing wrong, quite often we're putting our trust in the growth of our business, our success, in the hands of other people who ultimately don't have really any accountability. As long as they get their fee, they're quite happy. But quite often they'll blame us when it doesn't quite work out, and there'll be some kind of get out of jail clause in the contract. As an example, many years ago, getting my very first website built, which was a membership site for some e-learning I was putting together. I spent £10,000 on that website, put all the content out there, no sales. Went back to the web design company who I'd spent, as I said, a lot of money with, and said, we're not making any sales. And so their advice was, well, it must be, you know, whatever content, whatever sales copy was on the website. So I said, oh, okay, that's fine. So what do we need to do with that? They said, well, so they put it back on me. Well, what do you want to say? And I said, well, I don't know. I've never done any online advertising and marketing before. You're the guys with the web experience. You tell me. And they said, well, no, we're just the web design guys. You know, you tell us what you want to put on it. We'll put on it. And it was just back and forth. There was no accountability. So I had to take my money. They'd give me a website, but it wasn't, the fact that it didn't generate any more business wasn't their issue as far as they were concerned. And I've experienced that numerous times. I was only talking to a client recently who was asking for some advice about some PR they were looking to subscribe to in the States. And this person wanted a couple of grand per month for a series of months to do some public relations type and press type awareness. And I said, well, go back and ask them what measurable return you will get. So the answer was, you'll get about $20,000 worth of exposure. So that's interesting, yeah, but what if you don't get that exposure, or that exposure doesn't translate into actual revenue? And they went back and they asked, and the reply from this PR company was, well, that's not the point. You know, we're putting in the amount of effort, we're still putting in the time, so you'll need to pay us. And obviously, you know, whatever PR we do for you will be in, how do they say, in collaboration with yourself. So as long as you tell us the right things, then, you know, it should be okay. But I said to them, you're not paying for their time, you're paying for results. And that's what I'm a big fan of. I like results. I like to see people's businesses grow. I like to see them coming alive with excitement once they're you know, getting control over their business. All right? So it's important that you do apply what we're going to cover here. And this is what I was saying earlier. We get into business and we have no formal sales and marketing training. So this is my way of giving some formal sales and marketing training. So a little bit about me. Looking at the people on the webinar, there's a number of people that do know me. Those watching the replays, again, I've seen the numbers of people that have registered. I'm surprised as many haven't turned up as they said they would. But as I said, I know what it's like. Business gets in the way sometimes, and maybe I shouldn't have been so obvious about the fact that I was going to provide the replay. A lot of people sit back and just watch the replays. I do often, so that's not a problem, as long as you get the information. So I've been 25 years in sales, 18 years I've been running my own businesses, plural, and I've been through the ups and downs of many recessions. And that's one of the reasons why I eventually decided to get into marketing and lead generation expertise, because my background is sales. So if I was put in front of somebody, I could sell. But I realized, as I said, it's more to just selling. We need leads, and we need conversions, obviously, and we also need to be in control of our transactional values as well. So although nothing happens in business until something is sold, we still need to have people to sell to. So that was my challenge probably about 8 years ago. The big recession, downturn in the economy back in 2007, I decided that I've got to learn more about lead generation and get control of that element of my business. And it's interesting, the number of people that will say this to me. They'll say, if I'm in front of people, I can sell them, quite often because they are very passionate about their business and what they have to offer. So, Brian, please just get me in front of more people. And that's kind of where I was. I had a number of core clients, but if they stopped giving me business, I didn't have control, which is one of the things I mentioned earlier. So I've therefore wanted to work out how I could get more leads, and really the other end of the equation there, how I could increase my fees. And that's something I've done year on year now for a number of years, and maybe I'll touch on that later as well. But one of the other things I've managed to do is create a bit of an authority status, and I've become a published author. So there we go. I can't see me at the moment. I've got a book here beside me. And through doing webinars and things like this as well, it builds a status in the marketplace that people turn to you for advice. The trusted advisor status is something, particularly in the corporate space, we talk a lot about. But there's no reason why that shouldn't be something you aspire to be within a niche, no matter what kind of business you're in. All right, now, I do have to just, for legal reasons, and running this webinar, I have to make this disclaimer. I don't know your business. I don't know your financial viability. Okay, so everything I'm covering here really is in the spirit of good faith. It's training, it's education, it's advisory. That's all. So please do take, practice due diligence, but take care and practice real consideration when you're applying these things. And any examples I give here are for demonstration purposes. If we have to sort of get into any worked examples of kind of income projections, that sort of stuff, I probably won't do, but you'll see the point. So, all that said, this is what we're going to talk about for the next sort of half an hour or so. First of all, a little bit about this direct response marketing, what it is, and I'm going to introduce you to some of the key principles of that in this webinar. I'm going to talk a little about the psychology of why people buy. I'm actually going to run a video in a moment taken from my Sales Without Selling program, which talks about how people make buying decisions. And it's a key part of what we're doing in this program, because if you understand the psychology behind buying, then we can provide marketing and selling in a way that's more acceptable by the person looking to make a purchase of our product or service. So I'll come on to that in a moment, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of homework, something to do for next week. So let me talk about direct response marketing. Now let me just flick back to the chat room, just make sure there's no comments here or anything. So you're all hearing me okay by the looks of it. That's great. So what is direct response marketing? Well, direct response marketing is designed to, as you see here, evoke an immediate response. And it's all about compelling prospects to take some form of action, or a very specific form of action that we're going to define. All right. Now that's very different to brand marketing, which I'll come on to in a moment. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we make them a very specific offer. All right. So an offer would be something like 50% off this today, or that kind of thing. And we do that very specifically around perhaps a very particular product as well. So we don't try and sell all things to all people. Instead, what we do is we will focus on a very specific audience. So let me give you an example. So an offer, as I said, maybe 50% off something, but it might be, I don't know, ladies' tennis wear, as an example. If we sold sports apparel, as an example, we would focus on giving a very specific offer, i.e. 50% off, and the audience would be females who play tennis. Okay, another particular audience might be, okay, somebody. So let's say you're into health, or let's say you're into weight loss. Let's get a little bit more specific. Specificity is going to be key here. Then your audience may be people who want to lose 20 pounds or less, you know, something like that. Or another audience may be people who want to lose 20 pounds or more. They're two different audiences, and this direct response marketing is all about targeting very specific audience with a very specific offer, with a very specific call to action. So we want them to do something. So it's not just about this is who we are. It's not about awareness. It's about a very specific call to action. So visit this website, pick up, text this number, pick up the phone and call us, come into the store, tear out this coupon, use this online voucher, whatever it might be. But there's always got to be a very specific call to action. And therefore, it uses what we call sales copy. Now, sales copy basically is a way of describing the benefits of what your thing does. Not what it does, not the features and functionality, which is how I see a lot of marketing out there, but about the benefits, the value, and that's what we call sales copy. And we'll talk more about that throughout this program. And the last attribute of direct response marketing is it's very measurable. Now, this means that we measure the response we get to every part of the process. So if, for example, we are putting an advert out there, we measure how many times the advert gets seen, how many times people click on the link in the advert, how many times the people, when they land on our web page, take the next step, whatever that might be, to opt in to a webinar like this, for example, to download a cheat sheet or a guide on a particular subject, etc. So it's all very measurable, with the ultimate objective of obviously converting those into paying customers. So we will get to a point where we know that for every pound or dollar we spend at the start of the sales process equates to a client of a specific value, that transactional value. But not just the initial transactional value, it could also be what we call the lifetime value of the client. So gaining a client is more powerful than making a sale sometimes, because of the long lifetime value of that customer to you. And that's one of the things we'll talk about later. So sometimes your offer will reflect the lifetime value of a client. So you may not make a sale as such on the very first transaction, but we'll come back to that later, but just trying to give you some concept here. So you may have an offer that actually brings people into your business, that gives you the opportunity then to sort of sell them other things. So, other offers might be, if you're in a restaurant, for example, it might be you offer a free bottle of wine with every dinner. That's what I mean. And the audience may be for over 60s. You may pick a particular sort of demographic. So I'm just trying to give you some examples. We're going to come onto this in a lot more detail in a few moments. But I just wanted to define exactly what direct response marketing is, compared to brand advertising, which is really about the advertiser. So brand advertising focuses on the advertiser. It's trying to make people awareness of the brand. So you'll see the luxury R8 car from Audi, just an advert that came to mind that's seen recently on television, where you'll see the company, the car rather, sweeping through the country lanes, and it's all very glamorous, and it's all about building the brand of the company. Direct response marketing focuses on the customer. Right? We're very specific. We're not generic. We're very specific about who we're targeting, what we're selling to them, as opposed to one-size-fits-all type marketing, which is what sort of brand marketing is all about. So hopefully that kind of gives you some definition around direct response advertising. Okay, now let me just stop sharing for a moment and bring myself back on screen. And so that's quite a bit of an introduction, both to myself, but also to a very specific way of lead generation that I'm going to teach over these webinars, and I'm going to get into also the first part of that in a few moments. So don't forget, we do have a chat room down there, whichever way we're looking. That's fine. Here as well. So if you do want to put any kind of comments or questions in there, I will be monitoring that, and I will also respond to those as well. So please do interact with me. Now, what I'm going to do is, I saw the first part of this is talk about why people buy. And the way I'm going to do that is actually, as I said, run a video from my Sales Without Selling program. And I'll explain in this video, it's about 10-15 minutes, it's how people make buying decisions. Okay, so let me start that video now, and I will join you back in a few moments' time. Hi there, and welcome back to another video in our Sales Without Selling program. And in this video, slightly different to some of the other stuff we've covered perhaps so far, and certainly different to what we're going to cover going through the rest of the program, which is going to be very much actionable and implementable tactics and strategies to help you grow the numbers of sales and leads that actually come into your company. Now, this video is going to be around the psychology of how people buy. It's kind of the, not necessarily conscious, but even subconscious way that we make buying decisions. We call it, in sales, often we call it the buying cycle, and the more we can evaluate or align, I should say, our activities with this buying cycle, the more customers we will ultimately get. And remember, one of our objectives in this whole program is about the effortless attraction of clients. We want customers that are coming to you
with propensity to already want to spend money with you because you've got exactly what they need to address the exact challenge that perhaps they're trying to resolve. And that's what the buying process is all about. We don't buy things for what they do, we buy anything for what it will do for us. So it all starts with what challenge or problem are we trying to address. So I want to talk about the buying cycle and look at it in 4 steps. And I'll use the acronym PSPS to explain the process that we go through. So it starts typically with a problem of some sort. There is a problem we are trying to address. If we have a problem, we look for a solution to that problem. If we identify a solution, we may then well look for a product or service that will provide us that solution. Once we know what product or service we want, we then look for a supplier of that product or service, that capability. So we look for a supplier who can provide the product that will solve the problem. That's the way we are buying. Now, most people, when marketing their wares, focus very much at the end of this process. Part of this program, this whole sales without selling program, is about addressing this whole buying cycle. So that by the time people do get to the end here, they, as I said, have a much stronger desire to actually buy the product or service from you as the supplier of that capability. So let me just explain what this looks like, how it works. So a problem, let's give it an example. We'll use lead generation as a problem. Or no, let's take it back a step. Our problem might be, I want to make more money. All right, I'm a business owner and I want to get more money out of my business. So to get more money out, I need more profit, ultimately. That's what it comes down to, as you well know. So our problem is profitability, so I could ultimately earn more income. Now, to solve that, I've got a couple of choices. I could, if this is my profit margin here between my revenues and my costs, one option is to reduce my costs. If I reduce my costs, my margins go up, and therefore I can my business makes more profit, and therefore I can take more money out of the company. Alternatively, I could grow my revenues. So I have an alternative solution to my problem, which is to grow my revenues. Now, within that option of growing revenues, let's say I decide that's the solution. That's what I want to do. I want to grow my revenues. Within there, I've now got a number of things I could do. I could increase my leads. So remember, we talked about business boiling down to literally just 3 things. Numbers of leads times the number of conversions, i.e. the number of sales you make, times the transactional value or the fee that you charge for each of those. And that times that equals the money and the income that you make. So I could increase the numbers of leads. That would be one way of increasing the amount of new customers I get. Or I could increase the numbers of conversions or sales I'll make. So we've still got a couple of choices there. So I'm going to look for, assuming I make a decision, I'm going to look for products that will do one of the 2 of those things, either increase my sales or increase my leads. Because if I can increase either of those, ideally both, that's what we're going to cover in this program, but either of those would help me increase my number of, the ultimate amount of revenue that I bring into my business. So let's assume that I decide I want to increase the numbers of leads. All right, we'll start at the front end of the funnel there. I want to increase the numbers of leads. So I might now look for products that will give me more leads, assuming that is the solution that will help me drive up my revenues, assuming my conversions stay the same, that will address the problem of increasing my margin so that I earn more money. All right, so you see how it works back from to a core problem. Now, there are a number of products or services out there that might help me increase the numbers of leads. I could do something more on social media. I could do something more on other paid advertising platforms. I could do something offline, perhaps with newspaper adverts or flyers or magazine inserts or something like that. I could speak at events, perhaps to raise my awareness. I could write a book and use that as an authority, sort of tool which might attract more potential customers to me. So again, there's lots of different products or services out there that will provide the solution of growing leads, which will solve the problem of wishing to grow my revenues and ultimately increase my margins. All right. So let's just say I choose social media. I don't do much on social media, therefore I've decided social media is the way that I'm going to increase my presence and attract more people to my business. So now I know what product or service I need. Now I will look for suppliers of social media marketing as an example. Now at the product stage, I might decide, well, I'll look for perhaps some online tools that could automate some social media activities for me. Or I could outsource it to a company as a service. So I've still got some choices here, but assuming I decide that social media marketing is the product that I want to, or service I want in my business to help solve my problem, now I will go to the market to look for a social media marketing company. Right? And it could be the same thing if if you're a physiotherapist or a chiropractor, osteopath, something like that. Somebody's in pain. There might be different solutions to, let's say, backache, for example. There may be different solutions to that. There's some kind of manipulative activities. There could be some alternative therapy type stuff that you might burn, or some could be exercises. Again, different solutions. But once I choose whatever solution I want to go down, or what route I want to go down, I will then look for a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or whatever who can deliver that sort of capability for me. So typically, most people, marketing activity takes place at this end of the spectrum. Right? We try to be out there in the market when there is somebody looking for a supplier of the service that we offer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, we will certainly be addressing that in the coming very shortly in the next few videos. We will be really getting into how do you step in front of this hungry crowd. Sometimes we refer to them as people out there who know what they want. But actually, we're potentially leaving quite a lot of business on the table, because when we get to this bit in a kind of a supplier of a service with somebody who's sort of fairly well decided on what it is they want to buy, quite often the conversation at this area comes down to two things: price, right, and features. So, how much do you charge each month, and what will you do for me? Would be the way I'm looking at that. So we're looking at price and features, and therefore, if we only operate in this area, we might find that we're getting to discounting conversations and all that sort of stuff. So that could actually impact your profitability. So if our goal was to increase our profitability, we may get more people coming to our funnel. But if you're only working at this level or this end of the buying cycle, quite often you can see your margins get crushed. So we've got to work there. There are people out there, we want to pick those up. And as we get into the next sort of phase of this training, we will talk very much about how you can really stand out in the crowd and attract more and more of these people, excuse me, into your business. But we've got a whole market. Now, sometimes we refer to this as the sales funnel. Okay. It's kind of more maybe of a buying funnel, because we have a lot of people out here who have the same problem, but they are funneled down and getting smaller and choosing different solutions and ultimately getting to you. If you can, let's put some colours on here, keep it a little prettier. If you can address or engage with people much earlier in the buying cycle, then actually, while they're evaluating solutions, as an example, you can now be putting pressure or influence, we call it, on that decision. So we make it obvious that social media marketing, for example, is the right solution. And as they move along here, we educate them on the fact that what a good social media marketing company should look like, and therefore we're educating them really on how to buy our service. So by the time they get to the end here, they're saying, well, what I need is a social media marketing company that does A, B, and C, because this is what we've educated them, that will allow us to achieve this particular outcome and grow our revenues by this amount of much and increase our lead generation by X. And so they're all, as I said, predisposed now to buying what you have to sell because you've educated them on the process. So I hope that's clear. Now, as I said, that means we've now got two marketing activities that we need to, that's not a very good arrow, is it? There we go. We've got two marketing activities that we need to take into account. We've got the those that are at the supplier end, and we've got those that are still have identified they have a problem and are still evaluating what their options are and what kind of solutions and capabilities are out in the market that might help them achieve their outcome. Right. Now, later in the program, we'll talk about how we mop people up at this end. In the coming videos and more nearer videos in this program, we're going to look more about how we stand out from the crowd here and how we attract more leads at this end of the sales funnel, or this buying funnel, this buying cycle. And when you address both ends of this is where you can start to see exponential growth in your company. It's also, if you engage somebody earlier here and you're educating them on how to buy your product, they're less disposed to start asking for discounts and the likes, because you've built what we call trust. They've grown to know you and like you, and that's what this is about. People buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So as they go through this funnel here, they're going to get to know you, like you, and trust you. And it's in sales, we often refer to this status that you develop as the trusted advisor. You're the person they turn to get their advice from. Now, obviously, there's a timing issue here. We don't know when people are at this point or at that point. And that is why we have to be in the market at both ends of this buying cycle. Right? It's a funnel, but yes, we want to funnel people into our business. Now, some work I did with quite a big company not so long ago was actually help them implement a strategy that's increased their sales conversions by 76%. So what they were doing is very responsive. As I said, there's people out there wanting a quote, wanting some information, and they were very much acting as a supplier as opposed to a trusted advisor. And they were closing about 1 in 10 of every quote that they sent out to prospective customers. We taught them how to engage much earlier in the sales cycle, where they were actually now converting after we've implemented some systems. And these are the exact same systems I'm going to be teaching you. So these are systems that you've paid a few £100s to learn, of which I'd often charge tens of thousands of pounds to implement for some of my clients. But basically, we increased their conversion ratio to 76% from 10%. So that means 1 in 7.6 or 7.6 in every 10 customers actually became, or prospects actually became, a buying customer. Now that will significantly increase the amount of business that you earn, or that you do, and therefore the amount of income that you can earn. So I want to make sure we understood this buying cycle and how people make buying decisions. And we're going to address that end very tactically with some very specific things you can do to get more of those customers who are out there ready to buy. But we're also going to talk about how you can address the market at this stage as well, and ultimately all the steps along here as somebody evaluates certain options with regards to products or services that they can buy. So I hope that kind of makes sense and gives you some insight or perspective on what the process that customers go through. Now, once you've got a system in place, which is what we're going to teach you in this program, you can then automate a lot of this, because you can have things out in the market that are automatically doing all the pre-selling for you. So as I said, when prospective customers do ultimately knock on the door or ring the bell or visit your website or call the hotline or whatever it might be, they're going to be much more predisposed to want to do business with you. They haven't chosen a product, they're pretty much going to have chosen a supplier by the time they're knocking on your door. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, and you'll see how we can fill this funnel, so to speak, as we go through the whole program. You'll see we're going to do a lot of magic stuff here to increase the conversions at this bottom end of supply, people already in that mindset of looking for a particular vendor of a particular product or service. But we're also going to address this whole sales cycle. And as I said, this is going to increase the numbers of leads you get. It's also going to increase the numbers of conversions you get. And as I said, you increase both of those metrics, leads and sales, keeping your transactional values exactly the same, your money will still go up. And I said, increase 1 of them, you get growth. Increase 2 of them, you get exponential growth. Increase 3 of them, which can happen through this process as well, because if they see you as the authority on a particular subject because you've educated them throughout this process, you're going to find that actually you'll be able to charge higher fees as well. And when you can increase each of those three elements of making money as a business owner by a percentage, it compounds and you get exponential growth and exponential income. So hopefully it's kind of good. This video has given you a bit of a look behind the kind of, as I said, the psychology of how people buy, and therefore understand why we're going to do some of the things we're going to do in this Sales Without Selling program, but also excited you about the prospect of how much growth your business may see over the next 6 to 12 months as we start to implement some of the strategies that affect and impact these various phases of the buying cycle. So we'll wrap it up there. Any questions, obviously, please, you can feel free to leave comments in this module of the course, and I will answer them as I always do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next training video. I'm Brian Conway. Bye-bye.
So let me pick up a couple of things in that video, and then I'll get back to the slides and go through a couple of specific things and set you your homework. So we can attack both ends of that spectrum. And Adam was asking in the chat there while the video was playing, can we kind of engage earlier in the sales cycle? Well, yes, actually we can. You can educate individuals. Quite often that's harder, particularly if you've got a product that people aren't familiar with or don't know about. I think sometimes you've got to explain what the problem is. Sometimes, and that can be a little bit more difficult, but no, it is an option. But there's usually enough people in any marketplace who have a challenge or something of which our product or service addresses, so let's not make it too hard for ourselves. But we can address either end of that sales cycle, and that's what we're going to talk about in this program. Not all of it today. We're going to probably not about 10 minutes, so a little bit over time, so do forgive me. But we will cover both ends of that spectrum. But I'm going to start with the buyer end of that, somebody who's recognized that they have a problem, they're looking for a particular product or supplier of a solution, and are ready to buy something, they just don't know who to sort of buy it from. So let me go back to my slides here. So, and obviously make sure those slides are showing okay in case there's any further delays. Right, why people buy, we've just talked about. So I want to talk through now this is what I call my smart marketing system. And I'm going to talk about just the first part of this at the moment, which is specificity. And this is where I said in direct response marketing, you've got to be very specific about the audience you go after, the offer that you make, the response that you want or action you want people to take, etc., etc. But I want to focus on one of the biggest mistakes is what quite often and even if your product is appropriate to everybody, when you market, you've got to make your product specific to somebody, right? You can have multiple, and that's the thing, you can have multiple marketing campaigns. You're better off having 2 or 3 advertising campaigns going, focusing on a very specific offer to a very specific audience, rather than just trying to be all things to everybody and hope that the customer joins the dots. You've got to accept that although we are public in some respects, we've got to accept that Joe's public can be quite dumb sometimes, and they don't often think things through, especially when we're seeing 4,000 potential marketing messages a day. Right, so specificity is key. So let me talk about some key areas of how we can create specificity in our market. Right? Now, once we know who that market is, then we can start to craft our message. This is our offer. Then we know what we're going to offer those people, and now we can decide on the advertising medium how we're going to take that message to the market. And that's why I say most people start with the advert rather than actually think about who they're advertising to or what they're actually offering them. Repetition then is key. So as I said, we can scale this up, then we can do different marketing campaigns. But repetition almost also means that you can't just market once. People have got to get to know you, like you, and trust you a little bit. That's why brand advertising does work to a certain extent. So we've got to have things kind of going on. They say today people have to see an advert 8 to 12 times before often they sort of take action. So you can't just put an advert out in the newspaper once and hope that your phone's going to ring off the hook. You need to have a campaign over a period of time. We'll talk more about that in other webinars in this program. And tracking is key as well. Again, more on that later. So let's jump straight into specificity. So you've got to have a great offer, but it's got to be to the right person. All right, that's key. As I said, 4,000 marketing messages a day. So we want something very targeted, very personalized. So if it's not unique, just pretend it's unique. As I said, people like to think they're different. So make them feel different. Make them feel like their problem is unique and you've got a unique solution to their problem. Now, question for you, therefore, I guess, is what kind of marketing do you have currently? Is it just kind of machine gun and it's everything out there, or do you have some very specific offers? I.e., let's think of an offer. If you're a financial services supplier, your offer might be to do to waive a fee or something. That could be an offer on a particular product. And as I said, if you're targeting a particular audience, which I mentioned, and I'll come back into in a moment, that audience might be 50-year-olds plus. So your product might be pensions, but rather than just saying pensions, anybody want a pension, you have a very specific offer, a discount on your pension setup service, whatever it might be, to just a very specific audience. And again, it could be you do it 50 plus, it's never too late to get a pension. You could focus on 20-year-olds. You're 20 years of age and you need to start your pension. And now's the best time, sort of thing. So you have a very specific offer to 20-year-olds. And that's what I mean by having a very targeted audience. So we'll talk about different ways you can target people. So demographics is one. Age, I've just sort of talked about. Sex, I've talked about, male or female. So you can have very specific offers to people with particular, and you can combine these as well. So as I said, it could be to women under the age of 25, men over the age of 40. And the more your message is crafted in that way, it just starts to stand out from the crowd. If I see a message about 50-year-old plus gentlemen around a particular interest that I might have, then that catches my eye out of all this noise. It could be a culture you focus on specifically. So there's lots of different ways of targeting. For example, if you are selling, I don't know, insurance. All right, insurance is insurance, home insurance I'm talking about now, but you could target that to people who own a house. So do you own a house? Yes. Do you rent a house? Yes. You get the reaction from people within those two sort of demographics. You can still sell insurance, but you're focusing on their particular situation, personalizing your message. Likewise, business or domestic. If you offer business services or domestic services, let's say you sell fire alarm systems. Well, again, it's a box and a bell and some sensors. It's not that different. Maybe some intrusion alert or alarm or monitoring or something. The product ultimately is the same sort of thing. But just personalize it as the ultimate domestic or home alarm system just makes it more relevant to a homeowner as opposed to the ultimate business alarm system, which would resonate with the business owner. And as I said, particularly if we then combine all these things together. So business types. So a lot of the marketing I've done, I do a lot of work in the technology space. I work with large corporates like Cisco and BT and Orange and organizations like that. But I also focus and have programs for the small to medium size IT company that maybe does a $1 million to £2 million turnover as opposed to multi-billion dollars like someone like Cisco. So my advertising will be very specific to that audience. So are you the owner, so that's kind of the person I might target, of a sub £2 million business who has plateaued with your revenues for the last 2 to 3 years. I'm calling out to a very specific individual, and then I'm going to make them a very specific offer, but it's going to appeal to them because of where they are and the challenge or problem they're currently facing. It could be financial capabilities. So it could be a budget, it could be an income bracket. Again, you could go after the affluent and sell products at a very high level. Maybe you do something at volume at the low end of the market. That's fine too. But as long as you know who it is you target and why you're targeting them, then you can craft your message in the most appropriate way. Okay, so that's demographics. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, please feel free to okay, so Adam was asking, can I give some examples of how to make people feel unique? So hopefully I've given you a few examples there. So I will flick back into, because I'm on 2 different windows here, I will flick back and forth and check your questions. So please do, yeah, please feel free to ask anything. So that's one way, and that's only one way, Adam. Geography, it could be something else. So you could focus on a particular area. So I live in Yorkshire. I could focus on businesses in Yorkshire. I live in Brighouse. It's a small thing. I could focus on are you a fellow business owner in West Yorkshire or in Brighouse, which is the town I live in. So again, it just makes it more personal, more unique. So that would be sort of more local as opposed to regional or national, or even national or international. You could personalize things through a postcode. So let me give you another example here. I was coaching a lady recently who was a financial planner of an FSA, a financial service advisor, I think that's the right expression. And she was looking to grow her revenues. And interesting, coming back to the fact that it's leads times sales conversions times monetary value, the transactional value, because she felt she needed more leads, which is fine, I'll come back to that in a moment. But actually we sort of said, well, I said to her, what if I could get you a 25% increase in revenue? She goes, oh, that'd be absolutely brilliant. I said, well, what's your fee at the moment? And she was charging about £300 or something like that for a consultation with a client, which I did really cheap. And I said, well, what are the rest of the market sort of charging? She said, well, about £400. So I said, well, raise your prices. You've got to £400, your market average. I mean, and she'd gone cheap to try and win more business, and that's really sort of worst thing we can do, I believe. So she had dropped her prices, wasn't really getting any more business anyway. So 25% increase in her turnover just by increasing her prices to what the average price was anyway in the marketplace. So that's what I meant by transactional value. But she lived on a big housing estate, of which there was about 1,000 homes. So I said, well, just target the housing estate. How many new clients do you want? So she said, oh, if I get another 5 or 10 in sort of the next 6 weeks, I'll be really, really happy. So I said, well, just target your housing estate. So personalize it through housing, as a fellow person living on this housing estate. So that's another way, a classic way of personalizing things. And those demographics will actually give clues as well to affluence, or how much people have got to spend. So if it's a nice area and a nice housing estate and modern new, what we call executive homes here in the UK, so they're houses of a particular size, then charging more, and partly part of her problem, and not wishing to deviate too much from my point here, part of her problem was I think she actually was too cheap, and people were thinking, is she that valuable? Is she that good? Is she that cheap? So actually, if you can identify affluence in a particular area and geography, then actually you can raise your prices accordingly. And you can do this if you're selling. That's what I do a lot with technology, so with companies as well. So we may just target a particular area, the north of England or London, London-based companies. So lots of different things here. So psychographics is more about kind of the problem. So it's focusing on a specific problem. So even though you may do health and nutrition or something, weight loss or something like that, as I mentioned earlier, then focusing on a particular challenge sort of within that. So are you always losing weight but then gaining it again? So it's still about weight loss, but you're focusing on a kind of a real challenge within the challenge, if you see what I mean. If you're in financial services, it could be are you fed up with investing in ISAs and not really sort of seeing the returns? The government's promising all these tax-free breaks, but are you actually making any money from your ISA to actually realise any tax implications, if you see what I mean? So being very specific about the actual problem, sort of within the problem, again, toning it down can make it very relevant. And all these things can be combined. So as I said, it could be tax planning for a 22-year-old living in the north of England, for example. So focusing on that, but not so much the problem as well, or the outcome that they'd like to achieve. So it's just a slightly different spin. So remember, the problem was the left-hand side of that buying cycle. The outcome is hopefully towards the right-hand side. So you can put a slightly different flair on it. And land and expand. As I said, you may capture a client who wants a will writing service, and you write them a will, and you focus on that one proposition to gain customers. So again, another example, company I worked with quite recently, we focused on just the retail sector. This company, we took one product, we focused on one vertical, retailers, with one very specific challenge of having multiple stores and the connectivity and some of the security around that. And that was the proposition that we went to market with. But once they land, They can sell them all sorts of things, landing network infrastructure, mobile services, telephony solutions, all that sort of stuff. We just focused on one very key proposition. So that's what I mean by specificity. Now, one last area, and then we're going to wrap this up. So a couple of more minutes. Sorry, it's a little bit longer than I planned, but hopefully you're getting great value from it. You are getting great value from this, aren't you? Tell me you are. So affinity is the other thing. What do you have in common? What do you have in common with an individual? So this could be, you know, we're all business owners, or we're in sales. So that's an affinity perhaps that we have in this call today. Again, I said it could be an age. It could be you're a parent. So for example, as a parent of 2 children, and therefore you can reach out to other people who have that similar status in life or whatever. As I said, it could be, you know, are you a pensioner or something? So whatever's kind of appropriate. Something else could be existing customers. You will have affinity with existing customers, and this is build on the land and expand something. It could be that you're into a particular sport. You know, are you a golfer? You know, as a fellow golfer who's always struggled with creating financial wealth with it or something. I don't know, I'm rambling. Get the point. And so I mentioned income levels as well. You know, so there are all sorts of different ways of which we can create specificity. All right. So there's kind of 4 areas, but we can combine those together. So that's the first thing which anybody should do when planning to acquire more customers. Don't try and be all things to all people. Be specific on the type of customer that you want. Now, in the next part of this program, which you'll get invites for, and hopefully we'll see you all again next week. And I'm doing this weekly. I said I don't want to encroach too much into people's time. I want to almost be like a bit of a night class type thing. But it's we're going to get into the message, and this is kind of about how to craft offers to this market. But 4 key areas there of how you can create specificity, how you can make people feel unique, how you can get your message to stand out from the crowd and that noise of marketing messages that we get. And a lot of it's subliminal, and you know, if there's a lot of advertising in a particular space, things will pop if it relates to us. We are tuned into things that are important to us. It's just the nature of people. So hopefully that'll all make sense. Again, please type any questions in the chat box before we sort of wrap up, and I will stay on here for a few moments afterwards to answer anything specific. But what I'd like you to do going away from this and for joining me next week is to decide on a target audience, so we can create a specific message for next week. Right? Now, one way of doing that is looking perhaps at any existing customers to see if you do already have a sweet spot. There's probably a reason why you have customers of a particular type. The company I mentioned a moment ago, we went after retailers because when I got them to analyze a lot of their statistics as part of the initial sort of engagement with them, it turned out that about 70% of their customers was retailers. So there was obviously kind of a reason for that, which we got into, but it seemed to make sense to then leverage the experience and expertise in the retail space. So we just went after that one demographic. So that's a great way of finding a sweet spot if you're not sure. Or is there a sort of a trend in the type of, as I said, customer you've acquired to date? So, you know, more, it kind of ties in with a bit of kind of the sweet spot, but is there, you know, sort of a particular trend in the type of customer that you acquire? And you want to sort of think about why that is, or why they've been attracted to you, all right? So let me just come back to myself. Thanks, Art. Appreciate the feedback. As I said, if there's any questions to type in there, but hopefully it's kind of giving you some insight into the way people buy, and therefore what our message should be. So as I said, that person with the problem at the front end of that funnel is going to have a very specific demographic. So it's not just about the problem, it's about the individual we're sort of trying to call out to. Now we're going to craft offers that attract them at the end when they're out there looking in the market. But what we're going to also get into in this program is how we attract them at the front end of that. Because let me, perhaps another example. Let's say you're a wedding planner. Well, people will be planning their wedding 12 months in advance. So they're not ready to buy their flowers or whatever it might be. So you can target the front end of that as well, which isn't quite the suspect stage. I'm coming back to your question. People recognize they have a problem, which is planning their wedding. And I don't mean that weddings are problematic. Planning them are. You know, obviously they want it to be a great experience. But at the front end of that, they're going to be planning. So a wedding planner, rather than just wait for somebody to look for a wedding planner, could actually put something out into the market like a free wedding planning guide, 10 tips on how to choose a wedding planner, questions you should ask of a wedding planner, how much to pay for wedding planning, etc. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So that's how you might attract somebody at the front end. And what I was talking about then in that video when I said then you educate them on the attributes of a good wedding planner. So by the time they're ready to actually engage a wedding planner, they're going, well, I want some, well, actually, it sounds like this person's the best because they've sort of been helping me make the decision on wedding planning and helping me get the perfect wedding. So hopefully you can start to see how it sort of ties together. So we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you're watching this on the replay, I hope again you're getting great value from it. We're going to do a similar call this time next week. Just going to do it over the next few weeks as we lead up to the Olympics. As I said, it's just my way of kind of giving back a little bit. I do a lot of corporate stuff and I have a lot of personal clients. Sometimes I do a lot of sort of free stuff as well with schools and local community stuff here as well. I believe in karma, so what goes around comes around. So, and I'd really like to get your feedback. If you start to implement some of this stuff, you start to see some results, then hopefully you'll provide some testimonials for me as well. So yeah, there's something in it for me. Let's not beat around the bush. As I said, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great to spend some time with you. I'll hang around for a few if there's any questions anybody wants to ask, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. So thanks very much. Take care and happy selling. Get out there and start finding some targeted customers that we can focus on in the coming weeks and get some of them spending some cash with you. I'll see you again soon. I'm Brian Conway. Goodbye.